Hello, all you spry tubers out there. Welcome to Dames of Thrones Season 2 edition, where filmmaker, gamer extraordinaire, and behind-the-scenes awesomeness known as Sesh, and the writing and directing sensation known as Maria talk shop on Game of Thrones. As for me, I'm Jonathan, and unlike our two experts, have no industry experience whatsoever, but I like to think of myself as the Piat Pri to their dragons. I'm extraordinarily pale and go down in flames within a couple episodes, never to return, whereas they bring the fire and are universally loved by all. And now, it's your Dames of Thrones, Sesh and Maria! Woo!
Instant clapping audience. Here we go.
And we are on the air! All right!
Perfect. I loved it.
Thankfully, I don't get paid for this.
None of us do.
Oh, good times.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to our show. I see we have we've started on a good note here. So, where are we starting today, Seth?
Same as always. We have all the same questions we ask, and we have each filled in our answers. And now we're gonna loosely read those answers. So I want to talk about, first thing I always like to ask is, what are your favorite characters that were introduced for this season? Ooh.
So, I know this makes it seem like I'm so pro Greyjoy, but Balon Greyjoy.
What?
I know!
Wait, how?
I just liked how real he kept it. He laid the smackdown on Theon. It made realistic sense that that's how he would respond to seeing his son. It really did.
You're a jerk.
Well, of course he's a jerk. He's a Greyjoy. And he's got ego issues. It was real. I liked it.
I tried so hard not to just call him a swear word there.
You did good. You did good. Oh, wow.
Oh, Maria.
I mean, I also like how it kind of showed how terribly naive the King of the North is.
Yes. That it did.
Yeah.
Those Starks.
You know what? He's just a lot of baby steps away from his father.
Yep. I'm sure his story will end up well once we get to season 3.
Baby steps, all little baby steps, instead of one big stupid oof.
Well, unlike Balon Greyjoy, I'll go with something that's actually universally liked, and that's Daenerys's dragons. Calling them to the show, they're by far my favorite. I mean, you know, they breathe fire, they fly around, they're very cute, very enjoyable. I mean, favorite character overall is Tyrion, because Tyrion's just fun. But in terms of new characters, the dragons. Loved Davos. Also loved Ygritte, because she told Jon Snow exactly who he was and what he knows.
I did not like Ygritte.
You didn't like Ygritte?
No, I felt like she was very repetitive, and it bothered me.
I think she had to be such that Jon Snow would understand her.
You know, I was going to say the exact same thing. She might be repeating herself a little bit, but it's Jon Snow. He's just a little thick-headed. So I will take a second for Ygritte as well. I do like her. She's really swell, but I think Brienne of Tarth was fantastic.
Oh
yeah.
Brienne was amazing.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of her. I think it's so great. Like there's, obviously there's a little bit more of an air of like, look, there are women who fight as far as season, compared to what we see in like season 1. And it's just really great to see that kind of like someone like her do it as well, because she is so special. She's just a huge beast of a woman, and I love it so much. But like, and she's actually incredibly talented too. Like she doesn't like just use her sword to like muscle her way in entirely. She does have technique. She is skilled, and she doesn't, like it doesn't feel like, oh, she's a big girl, so she's gotta go be a swords person and fight because she can't do the dainty things. No, it feels like to her core, that's like she always felt like she wanted to do something different. And I just saw a lot of similarities with like her and like Arya, except Arya's still tiny. That's it.
Yeah, plus she beat Loris around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like that she has a big heart too. It's finally a woman who can fight and have a big heart. Like she's a true knight. She's like the definition of a knight.
She is. Like she's not just like a honorable like Catelyn Stark or someone like that, but she's like knight honorable. It's like just this like different layer of honor, and she has it. Like it's just, that's her heart. That is a very good way to put it. It's in her heart.
She's beautiful. She just has poor taste in men. It's very sad.
Oh, well, we'll get to that in a second.
Not so good at that.
Okay, so we're going to talk about most hated characters that we saw in this season.
Oh, definitely Joffrey for me, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, always. I mean, he's a constant, really. But if there's that's why I do like to say add on characters introduced, which is probably something we will, have to disregard later on when there's no more new characters and basically everyone's just being killed off and stuff. But for now, characters introduced that you hated the most.
Oh, characters introduced we hated the most.
Yeah. Because
Oh.
I mean, Joffrey's never going to change. Is really that ever going to change?
He actually wasn't my most hated character from this season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually I hated Daenerys's character this season. I really did.
That's harsh.
It is harsh. It is. She came off almost, I want to say she came out better than Viserys did, her brother, but she came off in a lot of the same light, whereas she felt that basically she was entitled to rule. And through a lot of the times, it actually sounded almost, as crazy as it is, almost whiny in nature at the same time. I think really the one line that did it to me was the "Where are my dragons?" or line where she screamed out. And I'm like, all right, this is not going well. I don't know. Now I will say this. I think her character got obviously much better in the later seasons.
Oh yeah.
But season 2, I really wasn't feeling her.
Yeah, I think with like season 1 and 2, for her, I agree with you. Like I think she was a lot more like her brother in this season. She was not just that she had like come out of her shell, but she hadn't quite like, I guess, hardened yet in the right ways or softened up in the right ways. Like she was just really clearly like very immature. And I just specifically remember like after this season, like after the season had finished up and we didn't have season 3, people were just talking about how much, oh yeah, it's all Dany, I love her, I can't wait till she's on the throne. I'm like, ugh, I don't like her that much yet, guys. Like, what are you talking about? Did you read the books? Are there things I don't know? Because season 2, I'm like, I'm just not a fan yet.
Yeah, for the most part, I agree with you. I thought she was extremely one-dimensional in season 2, like really one-dimensional. even more one-dimensional than Joffrey. And I think they wrote Joffrey purposely to be one-dimensional.
Well,
So
he had purpose. Like, she was just, everything she did here was like filler. Like, it was all just filler. Like, we could have had like 1 or 2 cutaways to her the entire season, and it could have just covered as much.
yeah, no, it really could have. It really could have. So that's what I was thinking. Again, I also didn't like Theon very much for obvious reasons. But
oh yeah, he's on my list this time. I got a couple of others as well, because I can have a lot of hate for everyone. But yeah, I mean, Theon's on there for me. What about you, Maria?
As far as a new hated character, I don't know.
I could go next if you wanna.
Okay.
Consider.
Yeah.
So, one, of course, like Theon, I don't think he was one of the ones we considered like a hated. Like, but I think we saw like a new side to him. Like, he was really prickish before, but this was like different level. But he wasn't technically introduced. Blah blah blah. Neither was like Littlefinger, even though like I think this was probably not a huge filler, but like he did like I'd say like the grossest thing he's like ever done, which is like, wow, this guy is scum. Like, I mean, obviously he's had like other betrayals and stuff, but like he actually does like say the line that like, oh, now that Ned's gone, to Catelyn. Right? Like, just gross. Like, what a yeah, it's like, we know why, buddy. It's you.
Wait.
Psychopath.
That doesn't work. You kill the person you like's husband.
Yeah, she's available.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a genius move.
He was like, I mean, like, I didn't like super write him off before. I was just like, oh, this guy, I don't like him, whatever. But like, he did that, and it's like, he is written off. I am waiting for him to die from now on. Like, early season 2, I've just been waiting for him to die. But I would say actually, Melisandre. Melisandre, yeah, like she comes off as like as evil and manipulative as like you could possibly get, and I was like, just from like first intro to her to like just every little episode, every bit we get with her, I just get more and more worried with like what she's gonna do.
Yeah. When she gives birth to the demon, I assumed there was going to be a lot more of those. I thought there was going to be an army of demons that she just kept birthing, but I guess it didn't happen.
Yeah, the show would have ended pretty quick based off of that.
Hey, she needs another 9 months.
She didn't need 9 months.
She did it the first time, maybe the second time.
Ooh.
She had her one kid, and then she leaves. She's like, I must go. I'm done with this. Had enough children.
Yeah, I mean that clearly was my most shocking moment, I think, of the season.
Actually, mine too, to skip ahead a little bit. Yeah, like the murdering shadow baby was an absolute, this is in this world? What even is it? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Pretty
I
cool.
think this really was the episode where I was sort of like, oh, so we aren't going with like normal fantasy tropes here. This is, gone are the zombies, gone are dragons and magic and everything. But no, now we have like shadow assassin babies.
Yeah, anything can happen at that point.
Yeah, like I was really excited with that. Because I'm like, oh, this is like another layer, and this is like some scary magic, and like dragons, okay, that's normal fantasy. I'd argue that zombies are not normal fantasy, and it's just awesome that they're in this. But and murdering shadow babies too, awesome. Like, I'm in even more.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed she just wanted to sleep with the new king. I thought that was just her thing. Until she gave birth to a demon baby. Then it's like, oh, okay. She has other plans.
You know what? We're blaming her, but maybe each guy can only give birth to one demon baby.
Well, she did say that it took a lot out of him. and that
That's
he wouldn't be
true.
able to birth another. I mean, she
Look at
seems very confident in her skills.
yeah, I think she has another couple in her if she wanted to.
Mm.
Some shadow babies. Oh man, she's. I don't want to get into the spoilers. Remind me to tell you my funny shadow baby theory once we're done recording. I won't get into it now.
Is
It's
that Ned
literally
Stark too?
endgame. It's endgame.
Is that Ned Stark too?
Maybe.
It's weird though that she doesn't use that power or whatever just to kill off the rulers and do whatever she wants, you know? It's kind of funny. Oh.
I mean, maybe it has to be. There has to be something that went into it. Like that's the thing. Like I'm so curious. Like, did it only work because like it has to be like blood? Like it only will like go after like whoever shares like the same blood as Daddy.
Hmm.
Like because they were brothers, and it ignored everyone else. So
Well,
I don't know. Like I'm spitballing here. I haven't read the books. I
I
don't
don't
know if there's
so.
details.
The only reason why I don't think so is when she had the little leeches. Is
When
that?
did this happen?
Oh, whoops.
Oh.
Never mind. It all like runs together. It's so hard.
Trust me, dude. I've watched through like I think all the way through like season 3 right now. I was like, okay, I need to watch a recap of season 2 today because it is like almost the same thing for me right now. Like there's not like a hard line difference for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, it would take a lot of intrigue out of the Maury Povich show. That's for sure. Who the daddy is.
Let's see. Okay, so we skipped ahead successfully. Did you have you know what? Since both him and I have done our most shocking moments, what was yours, Maria?
It was also Melisandre's birth of a demon. That was
Sweet.
yes.
Sweet.
I was
Yeah.
not expecting that. I thought she was just gonna try to seduce yet another man. You know, when she's like, "Do you want to see me naked?" Whatever. She kind of said that, sort of. And it's like, okay. And then she birthed the demon. It was amazing.
It was incredible. It was a good one for sure. Okay, before we continue to skip on ahead to the next question, have you come up with the most hated character for this season?
Okay, you're gonna have to help me out here. Is Craster new to this season?
Yeah, he's pretty much new to this
I
season.
hated him.
Yeah.
How dare he rape his daughters? That's disgusting.
Yeah, he's awful. He's a really terrible one. I'm actually a little disappointed in myself for not listing him.
Poor human being. Wow.
Yeah, he's that's nasty. He's gross. All right. So next thing I like to ask, because this is a dramatic show, what was your saddest moments?
For me, it was when Meister Lewin was murdered. Because he was so sweet, he was so supportive, and like he didn't try to take power or anything like that when everybody was gone. He just tried to raise the kids right. And then what does he get? Murdered.
It's true. He even tried helping Theon a little bit.
Yep.
Oh, Theon.
Stupid Theon. Yeah, for me, I think like the overall fall of Winterfell really was because the whole time it's just like, no, don't do that. Oh no, don't do that to that person. Oh no, don't say that. Like it was just like constant like face palming, but like I couldn't look away because it was like just this sad stuff isn't really gonna happen, isn't it? Like this is actually happening. Like it was sad. It was just there was like nothing else for it. It was sad overall, like every bit of it.
Truly.
Oh, you stole my thunder there, Sesh. That actually I think was my comment exactly. Is Theon. All of Theon.
Yep.
Every single moment. Great.
Yep, just all of Theon.
Yeah, he is amazing at really being a screw up in this show. It's he is a gift. He is a gift.
Truly a gift to face palms.
Yeah, that said, my actual saddest moment, because when I was watching the show with Theon, if I thought that Theon actually killed the small Stark children in terms of Bran and Rickon, it probably would have been my saddest moment. But I'm like, no, they set it up with the boys from the farm. I thought that was pretty straightforward.
I do want to clarify, it's my saddest moment, but I didn't for a second think that they were really dead. People kept like, ooh, are they dead? I'm like, no, I don't think so. Hello, everyone who's asking me this, who's actually read the books. I don't think they are.
Oh.
Like,
no.
I didn't think they were. I did think they escaped, but I thought the whole thing was just very sad that, like, the home was destroyed, the betrayal for people who were a family, the people who were murdered. Like, I just thought all of that was really sad. And it's just all for, like, it's, like, not worth it, like, to please an asshole. Like, no. I'm just not into it. Like, it's just sad.
Yeah, really, though, my actual saddest moment was when Joffrey forced Sansa to see her father's head on a spike.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was pretty awful for a number of reasons. I mean, more than even just the whole notion of what was going on there, which is obviously heartbreaking, but that Sansa was so close to him, and like Maria just did a pushing emotion, which like one way or the other, either first of all, either I mean, let's see. Based off of Joffrey and his character and the tiny, pathetic, little expletive deleted, that he is, like, there's no chance she wouldn't have, like, just by pushing him, like, he would have, like, catapulted like 30 feet in the air, like, down there. Like, he's a tiny little guy. But even if it went poorly, at that point, if you're Sansa, you have to realize there's not much of a future for you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was it for her. And I think she just, took solace in picturing, just like the visual you just gave us of him just being flung like 30 feet. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, she can have her moments where she's not the dumbest. in these early seasons, like that definitely exists, where like that's about as far as I can say. But yeah, it was definitely a sad thing, because he's just such a bully, and he's so awful, and that probably is like the worst bullying I'd say he's done. Like, he's been mean with words and have some other people do some things, but that's I'd agree that's like some of his worst stuff.
Yeah, and I have to say, well, I do get on some of the scenes, especially between Sansa as Joffrey, as dragging on longer than I think that they should. I do have to say that I really have to commend the acting done by the actor who portrayed Joffrey, because having that level of glee, at a moment like that is hard stuff. That it is not easy to play complete psychopath.
Unless he is a complete psychopath. I don't think he is.
No,
I think he's on a puppet show or something, actually, now.
That's amazing. I have heard usually the people that are acting as like actors that are like the most evil and vile and just most hated characters possible are usually like the nicest people in real life.
That's sweet.
Makes sense. If the police come by the studio, you sort of don't want to say, well, we sort of had that idea when he showed up and blew us away with how many people he killed.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so I have to ask then, from saddest, it's nice to go, you dip low and then you get happy again. So funniest moments.
For me, it was when Jamie first sees Brienne of Tarth. I don't think he's ever seen a creature such as her in his life. It was great. Ah,
That was fun. That was fun.
It was good. There's lots of good humor in this show. There really is.
For me, it was Theon Greyjoy's greatest speech ever, also known as the YOLO speech. I have to say, that speech was fantastic. And I remember while watching it, I'm like, wow, he's like channeling his inner Robb Stark here. He's channeling Tyrion. He is going for it. He is really getting his men, and then bam, conked on the head. And I'm like, that is so perfect.
It's so funny. Yeah, that was such a good moment. It was a legit speech too, and it's like, yeah, what are you gonna do? Like, you're done, dude. Like, what a good speech. And oh god, it's so funny.
Oh, I would have fought for that. Oh, that trumpet annoyed me more than Theon. I would have wanted that statue in my name.
Amazing. Yeah, it was so funny. It was great. It was a legitimately very good speech. That's what made it even more funny. So there for me, of course, there's another scene where Tyrion is slapping Joffrey. So that will get an honorable mention. I could only use that one, that idea so many times, although it's still funny. But I think my favorite thing, I forgot how much I had loved this the first time I watched the season, but I absolutely think it's fantastic and it's so funny where Ingrid is seducing John. Like when Ingrid's like seducing John is just constantly hilarious. Like I was so amused by it. And yeah, she does get repetitive with like some things, but like that stuff is just so funny to me. Like just where she's like wiggling her butt at him. Like there's like it was super funny, and she's just constantly teasing him, like trying to get a smile or something out of him, but also just to annoy him, like just kind of seeing which way he goes with that, and he's just all super serious, and she even like pokes fun at that. It's fantastic. I was so amused by it.
I agree. I agree. That is why I enjoyed Ygritte in the show, mainly because I'm like, oh man, Jon Snow, you just don't even know what you're doing here.
I love it. She was really fun with that. That's like some of my favorite stuff with her is just her seducing him, because it's all hilarious. All of the seduction is like hilarious.
I think Maria called it her ownership of him, that
she claimed the man.
She claimed them. Yeah, she's like, you are my man now, Jon Snow. And Jon
I'll
is
make you smile, Jon Snow.
like, oh?
I'm just sure he was raped. I think that's what happens, but it's okay. It's okay. Got over it. I think he thinks he's in love, so that's good.
Oh, nice. That's sweet. Stockholm syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't think of it that way, but I still was amused, even with all her inappropriate grooming. You know what? It wasn't that inappropriate. She might have been younger than him. She was just more experienced than him. Yeah. So, yeah.
You make a good point, Maria. If the roles were reversed, if Jon Snow was Ygritte and Ygritte was Jon Snow, I think people would have probably had more issues with that scene.
I don't know. If Jon Snow was like rubbing his butt up against her like that, I still think it would have been really funny.
It would have. Never mind. People would have loved that. Yeah. Take it off.
That's funny.
Oh, that'd be great. Oh.
You may not be king of the North, but you're king of my heart.
If the roles were reversed, she'd probably say something dumb like that. Something dumb like John would say.
Thanks, Ash. Thanks. Always good to know my place on this show.
No, not yours. You know.
I kind of feel like I couldn't really enjoy their interaction because I was too nervous about the White Walkers. I was just too nervous. Like, oh my God, we're on the other side of the wall. Guys, be serious. Like, I was just
Guys, get out of there.
Exactly.
Point taken. All right. Wow. So we went through our most OMG moment, and we all share it, which is funny. Which brings me, which for me personally, segued to most exciting plot element introduced. And for me, I did get into this a little bit, but I do think like the legit like scary like black magic stuff is like a really cool introduction to this world, because we didn't really see like any of that in season 1. And like we have the dragons, but they're not necessarily magic, they're just old myth. And we have like the White Walkers, which are essentially just zombies thrown into a fantasy world. But this is like some dark, hardcore fantasy magic, and I just thought it was really interesting to start bringing those elements into this story.
Yeah, no, it is interesting because I agree. Usually you think of something as pure fantasy or pure horror or pure historical, and this show does blend all of those things together, and I think it does that at least pretty well. I think that's a really good point that you made.
Like I actually really liked like first season. Like I'd say like one of the things I liked the most about it, I do say zombies, but at the same time is the politics of it, which I feel like we got the politics of it, which we don't normally get such rich politics of like fantasy stuff, and usually it relies too much on the mythical and magic BS. Yeah. But now that they're introducing it slowly, I'm just way more invested.
Yeah, I like what you say with the politics, because it's kind of merging human decisions with dark magic. So it's like our ethics and how it's affecting the other world. And
absolutely.
It's intriguing. Very intriguing.
Yeah, like it's like, okay, cool, you guys got just whatever fantasy, you guys got ice mages or whatever, but like never in like fantasy do I feel like they're like, is it ethical for us to like use the ice mages powers, or like there's just like never been anything like that, and I feel like this is kind of dipping into that a little bit, like just like how scary magic can really be, especially to like a world where it's so rare.
Right.
Yeah. For me, to change notes a little bit, I was most excited basically by the progression of Robb Stark in the show, because I thought that's where things got a lot more real, at least in terms of decisions that had to be made. In terms of Robb Stark, how he led his army, in terms of what he did to capture Jaime, in terms of his military smarts, and being able to make decisions on the battlefield. How he had to deal with his mom in terms of Catelyn for her betrayal, dealing with Jaime as well in terms of his actions while he was there, and all the while making a wonderful royal decision of starting to flirt with the the medic on the battlefield, which also goes into my like what are you thinking?
Yeah. I like that. I definitely liked it too. I thought it was really interesting, but I felt like it definitely shifted, because like end of season 1, I didn't know what the focus was going to be on. Like I didn't really even think him so much, but like with this season, I'm like, wow, they're putting like a lot of stock into him and his story. Like I feel like like Endgame's gonna be something like him and John, one of them have to die like at the end, and like it's gonna be like these two brothers and their distant connection, and like it was really priming us for his story, which I will just say at the end of this season, I will just say I appreciate.
I actually had a different thought during this season while I was watching him. And I think this was my whole where I was going through, man, the Starks are such stupid creatures. I was watching him and he was having actual successes and he had like the backing of people.
Yeah.
But the decisions that he made were, while sometimes good from a military tactics standpoint, they were absolutely terrible decisions from any other standpoint. And
Yeah.
when you're trying to get a group of people, especially a group of people who they really want to follow the law and the justness. I think we talked about this before in season 1 with Ned Stark and how everybody loved him. And he did some questionable things, but his questionable things were all in line with what was lawful at the time. And, everybody at least respected him for that. He's a Stark, he's honest, he's going to do what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, the fact that Rob, on the other hand, he got all of the backing basically through his father, through his name. And at the same time, he wasn't that same type of person. A lot of the decisions that he made, he was conflicted about making the choice that Ned Stark would have. And each of those decisions that he made ended up costing him greatly.
Yeah, it was kind of like he wasn't, even though he was like very honorable and he was doing all of this and he was kind of by the book, there's like two things that were a little bit different. Like this was essentially a revenge mission, like entirely. Like they didn't necessarily have to go to war over one family member dying. I mean, I know that is like a crazy kind of idea, especially in like this kind of world, but I'm just saying it's a revenge mission. It's to avenge like that death and like that wrongdoing. And so there's like a human element he was kind of ignoring. Like there's, with like the mom Catelyn like wanting the daughters back. There's the other people that just literally do want actual revenge, like immediate revenge for more of like the hands-on stuff that they've been experiencing besides just Ned. And he kind of, in a way, didn't really address those very well as like, pissing off some people and other people and doing all these other little things. Like his human element was just, he was just not reading it right at all.
Yeah, I think he had a little bit too much of a self-importance to him, too much of an ego. Like I feel like he got power a little too soon, and he kind of thought, well, I'm king, so I'll just make these decisions, and I'm king, so I'll just do it. Like I kind of feel he felt untouchable in some ways.
Yeah, I think like Tywin Lannister put it like really well. Like it was just like he keeps on winning. They need to stop underestimating him. And he was very good. Like his arrogance had like there was like a real clout to it. He was winning all of his big battles. He won everything big picture stuff he won, but those little things, all the details, he was just completely letting slip by him, and those things like snowballed into other issues.
Yeah, no, I mean, you could definitely see, while he was winning battles, he was straight up losing the war. He was losing the meaning that the North had in this whole thing. And, that's the problem. If you have a poor leader, and that's the thing, he was a good military captain, but he was a very poor leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, it's a shame. Because, quite frankly, Catelyn actually probably would have made a better leader, but she was going through stuff
You
as
think
well.
so?
I think she would have. But if she didn't have to deal with the fact that her children were basically being held hostage.
Yeah, that made her a little desperate. I think if the children weren't held hostage and it was just Ned and she were in charge, it would have been over. Like, they absolutely, like, would have done so much better.
Oh yeah, I think they would have gone crazy, quite frankly. I think honestly, if Ned was still alive, I mean, obviously the whole story changes, but imagine if it was somebody else who died. I think Ned Stark could have rallied both Stannis and Renly.
Oh yeah.
To his side without
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And even one of those like talks like, when we get there, then we'll figure out the politics of who's on the throne, but we need to absolutely wipe these people out.
Right.
And I think everybody would have been behind that. I don't think there would have been a problem.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I also kind of think Stannis was like too far insane already. Basically our first intro with him. Like this guy's it's kind of kooky, kind of being manipulated. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, Stannis, he had a similar problem to Ned Stark in that he was so one-track minded with certain things, like that he couldn't do anything that opposed whatever idea he had in his head as what is right. He's like,
Yeah.
I am the rightful person. I'm the person who needs to be on the throne. I don't think it was because of confidence in himself, though. I don't think it was like, I deserve this position. It was more like, I am next in line. Right. I am the person who clearly is the person who should be there. Why is nobody following what's just and right? So anybody who's doing this is an enemy to the throne, And it's like, not smart.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like his mentality would have by the time we were first introduced to him, I feel like he was in a position where, give it like 5-10 years, he might have actually gone to war to take the throne anyways.
Yeah.
Like without an opening. This was just like his opening, but I just feel like that was like the kind of like path he was going down no matter what. Like he was gonna take what he thought was his and what he was the rightful person for, not for any real logic, but just Lord of Light BS and take it like just down the line, like even without this opening.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because he wasn't really even ruling where he was.
No.
Yeah.
How does he? I mean, this woman was telling him what to do. He's like, what do I do now? What do I do now, lady? Mommy, tell me what to do.
Burn more people. Mommy likes flames.
Yes, master.
Oh, that's great. That's funny. All right, so Maria. I'm trying to think. I was like, wait, did she answer? Am I forgetting again? She did not.
Okay. Oh, yes. Exciting plot points. I was very curious as to what was happening with the babies Castor was giving up. That was intriguing to me because I'm like, are they becoming human sacrifices? Do they die? What are they turning into with these White Walkers? It's very intriguing. And why? What's the purpose? Why do they need them? Because they use dead bodies to be fighters.
Right. Like, what can an infant do?
Exactly. And doesn't it take a long time for them to grow up? And how do they feed them? And who's their mommy? It's like a whole thing. Very curious. Definitely curious about
who's
that.
Who's your mommy?
Damn it. No, I'm curious too.
Yeah, and definitely the demons. I'm going back to Melisandre and her demon baby. That was also intriguing because how and why and yeah.
Were you like excited about these things, or were they just like? I mean, I'm still confused by them.
Oh, no, I'm excited. I'm jazzed. Jazzed about these concepts.
I mean, you are pretty jacked. Like, I've seen your arms.
I don't know. I haven't been to the gym in a while. I'm turning a little.
Oh.
Oh.
I can't see you flex over there. So
How about that?
yep, I like it. Okay, so give me like a little overview of the themes, like your feelings with this season, and maybe some other little elements you want to talk about that like we didn't quite get to.
I think basically it echoes what you were saying before about the dark magic. I was fascinated with Piat Pri. I thought the warlock was going to do more. I thought there was going to be more to him, and I'm
Nope.
wondering. And I was wondering, maybe he's going to come back. I mean, he had multiple little images of himself. I mean, you can do a lot with that. Maybe he spread himself out over the land. I don't know. I mean, that was very fascinating. And of course, Jagan Hagar.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay, it's interesting to see the different places where magic is showing up and in such different ways. It's like, how are these all going to blend together at the end? Or are they? And will they just fight each other or what? What's their purpose?
That is really exciting.
Yeah.
For me, I think I said I was apathetic about season 1 when we talked about the season 1 episodes. But season 2, this I really enjoyed. And this is when I started getting more into the show because I thought that there were a lot more story arcs that really were intriguing. And I thought the show was really starting to more or less hit a stride, at least in Westeros. I still thought Essos was a bit of a mess. But one of the things that I liked the most was I enjoyed how they built up Tyrion as a character. They were able to show how he how he was disliked, how he never got credit for much of anything. And
I agree with that. Like looking back, like I forget like after watching like season 1 how like just what like he just wastes all his family's money and he's just a sloth and like just does nothing. But how like I love how capable they showed he really is in this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean his use of wildfire, his battle tactics, his leading the troops when even Joffrey the king bailed on them.
Oh yeah.
And when the Hound bailed on them, and by the way, I really enjoyed the Hound as a character.
That was pretty cool.
Same.
That was pretty cool.
And you could always see that whatever moniker he had, it wasn't
him.
Yeah, it wasn't all that true. He was called what he was simply because of how he looked and the fact that he was born into a family that was loyal to the Lannisters, and you could see during the whole time that he hated pretty much every moment that he was there, and so I thought that shone through really well. I thought the whole dynamics of that shone through incredibly well. And then obviously Craster with his babies, that was intriguing. This going. And but one thing that I don't think we mentioned, so I'll bring that up, is I enjoyed the idea of the mystical town of Karth. The fact that you have like this beautiful oasis in the middle of everywhere, and it ends up everything there is based on a complete lie. That there isn't money. It isn't the greatest city in the world. It's just basically the magic that they presented it as such. And I just enjoyed the overall idea of the city, and I really wish we would have gotten to spend more time there, just in terms of different aspects. It just seemed that was one part in the show that really, really, really ended quickly. And it's like, oh, we're here, we're done,
Yeah, it looked like a magical place.
Yeah. So, but I thought a lot a lot was set up this season. Obviously, Robb Stark and how that was going in general too. The battles of the Five Kings, and I don't know. I enjoyed the season a lot. Also, Wildfire.
Oh, so much wildflower.
I was sad that the Khal wasn't really coming back. Like I was hoping they would just like magically make him alive again.
Yeah.
Like you can't just kill him and keep him dead. Just bring him back. It's okay. It's okay. We'll forgive you.
The show could do things like that. I mean, just to add to the Tyrion stuff, since I didn't get to talk about him, he didn't make it to a lot of my notes, but he really was great. Like he went from like funny, witty to also seeing that he is actually brilliant and brave. Like he was really great, and like that's also where we see, like, despite like how much he's hated, he does have like just such a supreme loyalty to his family, which is he's so great. Overall he is my favorite character, but these are the moments why. For me, this season was about dead or murderous babies. With Crasser and the Shadow baby. There's a lot of dead babies this time around. So some weird stuff with babies this season. But yeah, I was super satisfied with how much they just added richness to the politics, which again was like one of the biggest things I actually liked in the first season. Like, cool, there's zombies and that's like really I'm in, but like the politics kept me so entertained. Like it's just I've never seen a fantasy where it's been like so interesting to have like those kinds of politics. Like I was like comparing it like when I first saw it to the early seasons of like Battlestar Galactica, where like the politics of this is just like so interesting, of like taking like strong politics where like that on its own would be like a whole story, but then you add all these other elements and it was great. And I felt like they totally built on that, and they did really great things for how they left us in season 1, like with how the consequences just built up, and just there's stuff happening with everyone. There's repercussions everywhere in different ways, and I was very happy with that. It felt like it just added a lot more richness to everything. I'm trying to think what else or other things. Random side note, they mentioned a couple times in this season how Jamie had some problems growing up with writing or words and reading, and I'm like, he's relatable for me. This is like when they started, because like they were clearly saying like Jamie's dyslexic.
Yeah.
It's starting. They're putting the little seeds in there to make you hate him less. Just a little tiny bit, and they got such a long way to go still.
I think when he shows, like, he teases Brienne and shows his like of her, it makes me start to like him, because I like Brienne and he likes Brienne, so he must not be that bad.
That's more of the next season, though. He's kind of just a prick this season. See, I did that too. I was going to say the same thing, but then I was like, wait, I need to watch a recap. And I watched a recap, and I'm like, okay, yeah, none of that was in this season. That's all season 3, where they really, really start making him less of a douche. But this was just a little seed, just a little like, that humanizes him. He had to fight because he wasn't so good with the word stuff.
They with him, I thought at least this season he was very similar to Cersei in terms of personality, in regards to the woe is me, things are happening around me, everybody's like against me, and it's not really the truth, and yet at the same time, like,
you're still horrible.
Exactly. So it's interesting.
Why aren't my looks getting me out of situations?
Yeah, exactly. If only I knew how to read and write, I would never have. It's like, okay, all right, we get it. Cool. By the way, since you mentioned Battlestar Galactica, if anybody is still listening to this podcast at this point, 1 hour in. So parents,
If they are with this episode, like they're in for the long haul. We
Yeah.
got them.
Yeah. You mentioned Battlestar Galactica, and I cannot say enough. Watch that show. I mean, if you like Game of Thrones, not the same genre at all, but I honestly think that is one of the best written shows to ever be on the air. And honestly, if you like politics, if you like intrigue, if you like seeing humanity,
Sci-fi. Oh my gosh, just sci-fi.
yeah, definitely watch that. You will not be sorry. The first 3 seasons, especially, some of the best drama you will ever see. So
Yeah, that was like one of the, I'd say like one of the first shows I like binged. Like it was great. But I will give a disclaimer that like the last season or two or last season and a half are, oh boy. I hope the same fate does not happen to Game of Thrones. It's still worth to watch even with not a good ending entire season and a half, but like all the rest of it is fantastic and so worth it. Even with like an entire, like if they had 3 bad seasons, like just awful, worst TV you've ever seen, it'd still be worth watching just for the good seasons.
yeah. I could go on for hours about Battlestar Galactica. Oh, man, maybe we have to make that podcast too.
What if Jon Snow gets fat?
See, we saw the show, so we can laugh about that.
Yes.
To
the character that
else,
gets fat.
we're gonna give it away. Yeah.
That's all. There's a hot character and he gets fat, and that is literally like the beginning of the end. You keep watching, waiting for him to get thin, and it's that's funny. I'm just saying, I'm a little bit worried. We might see.
No.
We might be like, oh, hey Sam. Oh no, that's John.
No, the first 3 seasons so good. The 4th one, there were so many reasons for it, for why it came out the way it did. But again, that's for another podcast.
Yes.
I will do. I'm telling you right now, I would do an episode by episode podcast of that show. No questions asked. I will be here all day. Nobody wants to hear that.
I could possibly get behind this, but so much content. All right, Maria, what's your overview with this season, the themes, your feelings, and like some other little side notes we might not have talked about?
I feel like I'm tantalized. I want to know what the true meaning of everything that's happening is. I feel like it has a long way to go to tell me these answers. I feel like it's setting up for the long haul. So I'm kind of I'm nervous that the last season's coming up because I don't feel like they've really explored everything that they set up in season 2 in the further seasons well enough.
Yeah.
For me to be satisfied with one more season ending, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I mean, we can't obviously talk about it because clearly everybody listening to this hasn't watched any of the other seasons. But no, I'm with you. I think this season set the table for a lot of those major issues that we really want to know the answers to. It is true. Every show that is out there, especially when they set up major plot points, they are judged at the end of how they close out those plot points. And hopefully, even if they don't get us the answers that we want, hopefully at least they are able to cover those answers and to close the storyline. Because it's a shame if it didn't.
Yeah, I could hope for the best. I think not to get too ahead of ourselves, but with the last season that came out, which was prior to a book, I almost want to go and specifically just read that one book, and then this next one, since both of these seasons of the show are coming out before the book's release.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to have a lot more. I think there was definitely a richness that was clearly lost when they didn't have an actual released book. But anyways, I'm getting way ahead of myself.
Yeah, I found it to be interesting that Cersei just kind of had to live with her choice of putting Joffrey on the throne and quiet kind of watch a madman kind of take over and destroy essentially everything slowly. It was interesting.
I'm so glad you brought that up since we literally did not talk about it at all, and I feel like that's so huge.
Yeah.
That's really big. Like, she's very much about her children, and like he was just a little bit of a bully, twerp, whatever, but like he turns into like a monster in this one, and like she can't do anything about it. Like that's what we kept her around for.
Yeah, again, with her in general though, and I think Maria brought up a really good point in our last episode with it is how much she seems to be about herself. She talks about her children. She talks about how much love they bring her, or she has for them, and how much joy she gets from them. But I think that's the whole thing, is she runs on them. Like, their accomplishments are her accomplishments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And so, when she says she would do anything for her kids, no, she would do anything for her kids that benefits herself.
Right.
Yeah, like she will do anything to be in the position where she could manipulate all the power she needs to.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what happens. For some real life advice to all of our little tubers out there. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of what happens. If you go ahead and you give children the ability to do whatever they want, despite, them having tendencies which show them to be anything but benevolent people, I mean, you are going to go ahead and get someone who's completely out of control because they don't know what boundaries are. They don't know what lines are. And, you've given them all this power already. Like, there's no way you're going to be able to take any of it back.
Yeah, like you have to be able to explain to your children when they do wrong. And they do. Like, it happens. It's a learning thing, and parents have to be able to teach their kids what's right and wrong. And it's so funny with this season and how obvious it is that, like, like how he came up how he did, because everything he's doing, Cersei is just mad that it's not things that she told him to do. Like, she doesn't care that he's going around killing all these babies. It's kind of that's gonna make you look bad. Why are you doing it? I didn't tell you to do that.
Even mention that. We should have one of us should have put that on status.
Say, wait a second. I will say, actually, it made strategic sense.
Like, it did, but like, there's no remorse for it. Like, I mean, even like, yeah, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself because I, saw season 3 stuff, but there are things where it's like, wow, I disagree with your methods. The results are fine, but there should be, like, there wasn't any of that. Like, she just was unfazed. Like, she didn't care what he was doing. Like, she literally did not care what he was doing. Not only did she not, like, speak up against stuff, but she would have if she cared. She just didn't, except, like, the one time he, like, speaks about, like, her having the affair with Jaime, and that's, like, the only time she does anything or says anything, like, against him, really, because she doesn't care that he killed babies or how he's killing people or that he's tormenting some little girl or, like, any of that stuff. She couldn't care less. She's just, like, in her own head, annoyed, like, I didn't even tell him to do that.
Well, I feel like she's annoyed because it makes her look bad to Daddy, and she wants to be Daddy's favorite son.
That's true. That's true. Yes. She wants Daddy's favorite son. I agree with that.
Absolutely. I think so, too. I definitely think so. And I think, she would have made him real proud.
Oh, man.
let's put a plug in that and talk about that for later. Like just because I think she would have really made him proud if he could see all the stuff she's done and that she's doing and like her mindset with everything. I think he should have given her more of a chance to be.
I disagree entirely.
So. Yeah.
I cannot disagree with you more on that one.
What? No, they would have been like, oh, great strategists together. Like
Tywin? No. See, Tywin, and we don't want to go into other seasons, but actually, what Tywin warned her about, you're smart, but you're dumber than you think you are. It is very true. Like she thinks she's a strategic genius, but.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's about like the genius of it. I just think they would appreciate each other's cruelty. Ruthlessness.
I don't know if Tywin's really focused on being cruel as much as he is on maintaining his stuff.
Well, I think she's the same as that. Like, she's not going to be excessively cruel just for the sake of it. She will for revenge, and she will to also maintain her stuff. And I'm going to bring this point back up at the end of next season, and you'll see what I mean.
All right. Well, this was a very...
productive, wonderful talk. Outro.
Yes,
I'm getting the outro point.
Got an outro? Yay!
Oh, well, I have not prepared this at all, but.
Oh, should we hum? Should we make like the do?
Well, all of you spry little tubers out there, if you enjoyed this show in season 2, do we have more for you? We have season 3 through 7 coming right up before we get to this unveiling of the new season, season 8, where we're hoping to do one of these after every single episode going all the way through. If you like this podcast, and even if you didn't, please share, like, subscribe, whatever. Get the views up on this, and anything you do there really helps out the show, and we can give you more great content. And by we, I mean specifically Session Maria and not myself. So on that note, good night, tubers, and we will see you next episode on Dames of